I'm Assemblywoman Kimberly Jean-Pierre, and I represent the Great District, the 11th Assembly District in the state of New York. I'm so honored and proud to partner with Community Watch with our great host, Bishop Andy Luter, who would bring you various elected officials to discuss their platform, who they are, so you could be able to know who are the great people that represent you in the different levels of government. It's an honor for me to partner with Community Watch to help you understand what's happening right here on Long Island, right here where you live in your community.
Hello friends, I am Andy C. Luter, and this is the second of 2 episodes that we have produced of Community Watch. Community Watch is a weekly television magazine program that is sponsored by State Assemblywoman Kimberly Jean-Pierre. And today we have in the studio Kimberly Jean-Pierre. This is the second of 2 conversations that we're having with her, and we're so delighted that she has joined us and is with us today. Say hello to everyone who is shared with us today.
Well, thank you for having me again. It's really exciting. Kimberly Jean-Pierre, State Assemblywoman Kimberly Jean-Pierre.
And as I have mentioned, Kimberly Jean-Pierre is actually the sponsor of this government access program entitled Community Watch. So if you're watching this program, we want to thank her. We're indebted to her for making this possible, and we're excited to talk to her about those things that she is passionate about and those things that she is involved in Albany, New York, as our representative here on Long Island. Now, Ms. Jean-Pierre, the last time we talked about you being in office for a period of 5 years. And during that time, you have learned to negotiate the culture of Albany, New York, but you've also had an opportunity to look at the lay of the land, to look at the landscape here on Long Island, and to articulate a vision and a voice for those of us who don't have opportunity to voice our own concerns in Albany. So we want to take the next several minutes talking about some of the initiatives that's close to your heart, that you find so very important for persons like ourselves who live here on Long Island. So tell us and share with us what are some of your priorities in this regard.
So I want to first thank you for allowing me to share. So 2019 session, we ended pretty well. We had one of my first proud legislations, Brianna's Law. Brianna's a little girl, 11 years old, who passed away in a boating accident, and her mom, Gina Lilac, is a Deer Park resident. And I could never understand I have a mother of a 4-year-old daughter, what she goes through and not having her daughter here. But right now, you and I can go buy a yacht, a boat, and do not need any level of education, no certificate, and that's how Gina's daughter, Brianna, passed. And the legislation is named after her, in honor of her life, in honor of her mom's advocacy in Albany. And this will allow, and it's a phase-in period, which will allow everyone who operates a power vessel to get a boating certificate.
Okay.
Which is, sometimes you say no-brainer. It should be a no-brainer. This one other piece of legislation I'm proud of is Shannon's Law, which I want to thank organizations like First Company Pink, and my co-sponsor in the Senate, Monica Martinez, and of course Senator Boyle, who first carried it, which will decrease the age of an annual mammogram from 40 to 35. And we've seen on Long Island, and those are 2 things that impact Long Island, because we're protected by our waterways, and waterways is why people move to Long Island. Everyone likes to get on a boat, they love the beach, and we all want to feel protected when we're underwater. And we have so many women who have been diagnosed with breast cancer on Long Island. And to get that manual screening, we had a young girl, 17 years old from Copiague High School, who was diagnosed with breast cancer. So breast cancer is something that is truly hitting home, no matter the color of your skin, no matter where you come from, but it is really impacting people on Long Island. Not only women, but men too. So it decreases from 40 to 35. So that is something that we passed in 2019.
And one of the things that we're really excited to talk about is recently there has been an expose of real estate insensitivity or actually biased and prejudicial treatment amongst real estate agents, and you are a part of an initiative that's going to require that real estate agents have sensitivity training. Can you talk a bit about that?
So we're introducing legislation with Senator Jim Gorin to create a penalty for those per se bad actors of the real estate industry, whether you're a salesperson or a broker, and if you mislead or violate any current law, that you will be fined. And so that is a legislation that we're just waiting for a bill number, and if you don't know, session hasn't started yet. It starts from January to June, and that's when things get rolling. And we are looking at cultural sensitivity training, legislation to require that real estate agents have some sort of cultural sensitivity training. And that money, the fine, will go to organizations that have been fighting against housing discrimination, like erase racism.
Okay. Well, one of the things that we're excited about is sharing with you again, as we did in our first episode, Kimberly Pierre at work. And so we've assembled some footage of her in Albany, her on the floor, her in the marketplace, her with her constituents. And we want to share some of that with you now, and then we'll be right back to continue this conversation.
Thank you, Mrs. Speaker. I have the honor and privilege to introduce one of my constituents from Amityville of Strong Island, Shanika A. Bernard, who is majoring in Defense and Strategic Studies and minoring in Space Studies. Cadet Shanika Bernard is a 2016 graduate of Amityville Memorial High School and the daughter of Shane and Dana Marie Bernard, and who we are so proud of her and all of the cadets who have joined us here today. These are some of the finest young people New York has to offer, and we wish them well as they continue to grow and prepare for careers of professional excellence in service to our great nation. Thank you. And I just want to say I'm excited. Moi content nous toutes là. Anessa, this is the 9th year. Every year gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Next year, NAP celebrate 10 years. So make sure we go back and tell a friend, because we're getting bigger and bigger. This is the first time we're in the well, so everyone can see and celebrate Haitian Unity Day with us. And I want to thank my colleagues who are today honorable Haitians. They are honorable Haitians because Haïtien, rete tout côté, right? And look, Valerie Cartwright serves a district that is 0 Haitian, maybe 1 or 2, that's it. So we can serve everywhere. Again, thank you. I'm a proud Haitian American, and I want to thank, first of all, I want to thank my colleague for introducing this legislation, this resolution, to not only recognize 1803, 1804, 1791 to 1803, but to recognize the many beauty we have right here in this room, how hard we work, and how hard we work to make America great. We each play a part in this country, and I am so honored and proud that we in this chamber, in this legislature, we can celebrate the culture and the beauty of Haiti and Haitians. It is an honor to continue this legacy with my 2-year-old, to let her know that I am a proud Haitian American, and that she too should be and will be a proud Haitian American, because this is what makes this country great. Haitians and all diversity. Again, thank you, and I wanted to recognize all of my Long Islanders who are here today to celebrate Haitian Unity Day. Thank you, Mrs. Speaker, for allowing me to explain my vote. I would like to thank my colleagues for supporting this legislation, and to the Committee on Mental Health, the chair and the staff, and to Senator Carlucci for hosting these public hearings. As legislators, it's our obligation to respond to crisis, and this is a crisis, by tailoring public policy in a way that will hopefully prevent future crisis. We must find out why Black children are taking their lives at an alarming rate, and we must continue to come together and devise solutions that will put an end to it. A year ago and a half, the governor launched a suicide prevention task force, and I recommend him for that. And I have read through the task force report, which was released almost 2 months ago, several times. What troubles me is there was no specific mention of the direct support for high-risk group of Black youth, and that is why we are here today with this legislation. And I cast my vote in affirmative, and I hope my colleagues will do so too. Thank you. In town of Babylon just a few weeks ago, and we had some, positive response into legalization, but we really need to think it through carefully to make sure that young people have an opportunity to be successful and not criminalizing people, but providing a support system. So when we legalize it, what are the mechanisms that are in place to help people? And this is, again, adult usage,
right.
And we need to put that out there that this is adult usage, and making sure that we provide resources for treatment for those who are addicted, and also provide an opportunity for those young people who have been in the system for something that we could have helped internally.
And to your point, look, this is going to be a whole new industry.
Right.
And people say it's going to be, multi-billion-dollar industry in
Right.
the state of New York.
Right.
How do those resources get reinvested in communities where
Right.
the arrests for marijuana,
Right.
and typically those are Black and brown
Right.
communities, were disproportionate and did real harm.
Right. And
So how do you reinvest? How do you give people who were formerly incarcerated jobs, for example, and training?
So I'm really proud of the sponsor that we have of this legislature, who has made history today, and her story today as the new majority leader of the New York State Assembly.
That is Assemblywoman
Crystal Peoples-Stokes
from Buffalo.
And she, in our conference, has really looked at the piece of legislation to ensure that communities who have been impacted by criminalization of marijuana get that revenue back into the community. Let's provide resources to some of our groups in the community, our grassroots, who do so much with so little, to our public schools, again, who do so much, so little, and are in desperate need of funding for not only the criminalization that we find in these Black and brown communities, but also for the number of undocumented students who have been placed in these public schools with no resources. So there's a lot that we have to really think about with our public school systems and Black and brown communities.
So that's a big agenda.
Yep.
Are you excited?
Yes, I'm very excited. I'm excited. I just left the Senate chamber as the swearing in of
To see the first woman ever in the history of the state of New York
It's amazing.
lead the state senate. She also happens to be an African American woman.
That's right.
But this is a day of first
Yep.
in New York State.
Yeah, and I think we have a lot to do, and we always have to. For me, it's always keeping it hard.
Well, again, you're watching Community Watch. This is a program that is sponsored by Kimberly Pierre. She's a state assemblywoman that represents Long Island. I'm going to ask her in just a moment what specific area she is responsible for, so those of you who are watching will know exactly who she is representing. But Community Watch is a program that's coming to you on a regular basis that is designed to acquaint you with the shakers, the movers, the influencers here on Long Island that impact our quality of life. I'm having this conversation with Kimberly Pierre, and I am delighted to do so. So for those who don't know, tell us exactly what makes up your jurisdiction.
So I cover majority of town of Babylon. So I cover all of Amityville, Copeg, Lindenhurst, where my office is. I cover parts of East Farmingdale, Deer Park, North Babylon, West Babylon, Culver, all of Wyandanch, and Wheatley Heights.
Yes. Now, before we came on camera, we were talking about some tax relief, Storm Sandy related activities and initiatives. Can you walk us through some of those areas that you've been active and involved in?
So, as you know, Long Island was hit Superstorm Sandy. People are still recovering. On the south side of Montauk Highway, where my district is, people are still not in their homes. So, working with Supervisor Rich Schaefer, as these people moved in their homes, and they made elevations and renovations. The more you add to your home, the taxes go up. So the legislation just allows a gap where there's a time period there when they're doing these renovations that their taxes don't go up.
Okay. And one of the other things that we talked about, everybody is concerned about health and health issues. And with so many persons being diagnosed with diabetes and being dependent upon insulin and other types of medication, this has created a hardship for many, many families. And yet you're involved in trying to respond to that and make life a little bit easier for those who find themselves in that kind of situation. Can you expand upon that and tell us what kind of initiatives that you have been involved in that's responding to this crisis that many families find themselves facing?
So I'm in no unique situation. I have both of my parents are diagnosed with diabetes. My grandmother's diagnosed with diabetes. But one of my chief of staff, Brian Cunningham, has been diagnosed with diabetes, I believe almost 7 or 8 years ago, and he's utilized this opportunity for him to help others. And Colorado is the first in the United States to pass legislation to cap the cost of insulin. As we know, medicine is very expensive. Healthcare has been very expensive. It becomes a money industry. So the legislation has not been passed yet, but we'll hopefully work hard next year, 2020, to pass. But we'll cap insulin, the cost of insulin, at $100 per month.
Alrighty. And for those who are dependent on the high cost of insulin, that's going to be a great relief. Let's talk about some of the other items that, again, you're passionate about. And then I want to kind of move the conversation because there is a curious relationship between local politics and then national politics. And I was always brought up to believe that all politics are local. But let's first talk about some of the areas that we've not touched upon, some of the areas that, again, mean so much to you and that you feel obliged to address as a representative of here on Long Island.
So I would say education. As I mentioned earlier, I thought educational policy would have been my journey, but God had other paths for me. Education is, when you look at different communities, education should not be based on the zip code. And I'm 100%, I've been pushing that we need to revamp the way we fund public education. No matter where you live, if you're a family, you work hard, you buy a house in X, Y, Z, you should know that your child is going to have a quality education and not based on the zip code that you reside in.
Good.
And I think that the real estate industry has something to do with it when it talks about segregation and putting people in pockets and not giving people fair opportunities. So that is one thing I'm very passionate about. And as a mom, childcare, affordable childcare. We're talking about putting women in the workforce and respecting women in the workforce. Then we need to provide not only affordable childcare, but quality childcare. Those are some things I'm very passionate about. And the criminal justice system, giving people a fair chance at life. I mean, people make mistakes, and sometimes the system captures people who are innocent, and they come out and their lives are different, completely different, take a different route. So I really want to commend Errol Toulon, who's our first African-American sheriff of Suffolk County, and he has a resume. He was in Rikers for quite some years and came back to Suffolk County. Actually worked under Steve Malone and then went to Rikers, came back. And him and I have a school to prison pipeline task force, and we're trying to figure out, and his initiative is let me come to you before they come to me.
Great.
And we're working out ways and how, and even if you are in the criminal justice system, how do we help you become productive when you come home, and how do we help you prepare so you don't go back? Recidivism is very high.
Great. Well, again, you are watching and listening to Community Watch, which is a weekly television magazine program that is sponsored by Kimberly John Pierre. This is her platform and her means and her mechanism to communicate with you, her constituents here on Long Island and to inform others about those individuals who have a major impact upon our lives. We are indebted to her for making this platform available to us. She is our guest today. In future weeks, we'll have a number of other persons who will come and share with us, but all of that is possible because of what Kimberly Pierre is doing. Now, let me kind of go in this direction. But before I do, I want to kind of go back to some of our video footage because, again, we are so excited when we see you at work because we know that you are working on our behalf. So take a look at some of this footage that we've assembled, and then we'll come back to continue and even complete our conversation with Kimberly Pierre.
So education is the top priority. What else?
Mental health, looking at our mental health in our schools and our communities to ensure a lot of people are running around with PTSD, especially with what's been happening in our schools across the country with gun violence and not arming teachers, but ensuring that our schools have the right tools to provide security for their schools and security in our community.
And also to provide the assistance to young people who are struggling.
That's right.
Who, if given the right assistance, the right access to mental health, we could avoid a senseless tragedy.
Right. And I always say we have to look at things holistically, and it's like a 360. If someone has a condition, we should be able to treat that condition and provide the resources to those that provide the treatment. And when they get incarcerated, they go into prison, they come back into this 360 system, and there's no real treatment. We're criminalizing people who need help.
And too many people in our prisons are there because they have serious mental health problems.
Or they go into prison and come back out with the mental health.
So have you given some thought to this, to what appears to be what's going to happen in terms of the legalization of marijuana? Mm-hmm. A big part of that, if it happens, would be decriminalizing cannabis, but also going through records and expunging records for those who've been incarcerated, perhaps even released, but still have that prison record because of the over-criminalization of things like that?
Right.
What are your thoughts about that?
So we had a public hearing in town of Babylon just a few weeks ago, and we had some, positive response into legalization, but we really need to think it through carefully to make sure that young people have an opportunity to be successful and not criminalizing people, but providing a support system. So when we legalize it, what are the mechanisms that are in place to help people? And this is, again, adult usage, and we need to put that out there that this is adult usage, and making sure that we provide resources for treatment for those who are addicted, and also provide an opportunity for those young people who have been in the system for something that we could have helped internally.
And to your point, look, this is going to be a whole new industry.
Right.
And people say it's going to be, multi-billion-dollar industry in the state of New York.
Right.
How do those resources get reinvested in communities where the arrests for marijuana, and typically those are black and brown communities.
And so there is a stark divide that we are experiencing here in the country. And yet, in the description that you've given us about your work here on Long Island, it is obvious and apparent that you have a bipartisan approach. And you've been able to work well across the aisle. And because of that, there is progress that is being made. So let me ask you this question. What path do you see us going? If the country insists upon being as partisan and as divided as it is, what can we anticipate in the future? And how does the bipartisan working together that you've been able to achieve here on Long Island, how do we somehow send that to Washington? Maybe we ought to send you to Washington to bring some of the bipartisan spirit that you've experienced and exercised here to a place like Washington, D.C.
Well, I think bipartisan and being able to respect one another allows, first you have to be able to listen to one another, and you don't have those listening skills, and that you just fist fighting or verbally arguing with one another, and it's not going to get you anywhere. And what have you accomplished in your position? Like, when you say that you've ended your legislative session, you have to say, what have you accomplished? When I end my session, I say, I always say, what's the bacon that I'm taking home to my district? What dollars am I bringing back home? And what legislation that I have done that's going to positively impact the lives of family? Legislation's like turtle, right? It operates so slow because you have to go through so many bureaucracies and make sure that, you know, the way you started may be different because it has to be amended. It has to make sure all parties that it impacts have some sort of we reach a common ground. But the activism that you have, the ability to have as a legislator, and if you don't, especially my district, I mean, my district is very diverse. I have a 68% Caucasian district. And if, you know, and I'm very proud that the majority of my district doesn't look like me, but entrusts me to represent them in Albany.
We want to kind of close with this because this is not something that you have to do, Kimberly Jean-Pierre, and that is to sponsor a program such as this. Now, the platform is available, the footage is available, the time is available, the resource is available, but you've made a conscious decision to actually pick up where Brother Dwayne Gregory, he actually initiated this platform and made it possible. And of course, he's doing some other things now. But talk to us about why you felt this was important, why this is something that you were comfortable lending your support to, your presence to, and why is it, do you think, that we need to have a mechanism and a channel where we can talk directly to the people whom you represent?
So I first want to thank Presiding Officer Dwayne Gregory, because that's where I actually started, and he believed in me. And I want to thank you. And it's because it's leaders like yourself and like Dwayne that make legislators better, because we partner well together. So it's not only partnering with the other people on the side, but it's also partnering with the people on your side and making sure that we work well together, because I can't be who I am without community. And I think this platform allows people, not the average resident who can't make a community meeting, who can't, follow with what's happening with this organization or what's happening in local politics, but can turn on this channel and to meet their legislators and to know not only what they read, but to know what the moral values that each legislator who represents them stands for.
Okay. Well, again, friends, I am Andy C. Luda. This is Community Watch, weekly television magazine program that looks at individuals here on Long Island that's making a difference. We are sponsored by Kimberly Jean-Pierre, who is the state assemblywoman for our particular assembly district. And she is our guest. She's been our guest for this program and for the previous program. And in future weeks, we'll be bringing to you an assortment of other individuals that we are anxious for you to know. Again, we are indebted to her for making this possible, for sponsoring this program so that we can come to you on a regular basis with individuals that we feel that you need to know. So tell a neighbor, tell a friend that Kimberly Jean-Pierre is working overtime for her entire district, and she is making this program, Community Watch, available to all of us. Until next time, do know that you are in the hearts of those persons who are representing you, and they are looking out for your best interests. Thank you so very much.
Hi, I'm Assemblywoman Kimberly Jean-Pierre, and I represent the 11th Assembly District. I hope you had a great time watching Community Watch, and I hope you were able to have a deeper understanding of the various elected officials and know who they are, and got a chance to meet them throughout the different segments of shows with our great host, Bishop Andy Luder. Keep looking out for your local elected officials and stay informed.